Biz Chat Live. I'm Melinda Emerson, the Small Biz Lady, and I am so excited to be here with you tonight. We are going to be talking about finances. We're going to be talking about credit and how it might make sense in this recession to pivot to selling to the government. Now, Small Biz Chat is a peer-to-peer interview show that gives small business owners a way to get and share invaluable business advice. The mission of Small Biz Chat is to end small business failure. Tonight's video broadcast features 3 live guests, and we're broadcasting from my Small Biz Lady Facebook fan page. We're also broadcasting from my YouTube channel, and you know I can't forget my Twitter page. We love our folks over on Twitter, so we are broadcasting live there as well on Periscope. Now, Small Biz Chat, on our Small Biz Chat, our goal is to give our small business audience the opportunity to hear sage advice from multiple angles to grow your business and to take it to the next level. Tonight's guests are social entrepreneur Nicole Snow from darngoodyarn.com. And we're also going to be talking about business finances with her, and she's going to give us the secret to how she's built an amazing business. We're also going to talk with celebrity credit guru James Hunt. He's going to be telling us how to build and how to fix your credit. So critical information, especially right now. And then we're going to talk with Carroll Bernard, and he is a government contracting expert. And he's saying, guess what? In a recession, the government spends money. So you might want to figure out how you can sell them something. I am so excited to have all of our guests here with us tonight. So with that, let me introduce my very first guest, Nicole Snow. And I want to just, in full disclosure, you guys, she's one of my favorite small business owners I've ever coached. And I'm so excited to have her back on the show. So Nicole, we're here. We're going to be talking with her about how to keep your finances strong in your small business. But let me tell you a little bit about her. Nicole is the founder and CEO of Darn Good Yarn. It is an e-commerce business that serves the $44 billion craft market. They sell beautiful, luscious, handmade yarns and clothing. Nicole is an Air Force veteran who is driven to solve complex problems by leveraging the power of the triple bottom line business framework. Her company serves crafters all over the world and provides employment to more than 600 women in India and Nepal, and an additional 8 people here in the US. You guys have got to go check her out. If you're into knitting, you got to check out what they got going on over at Darn Good Yarn. I hooked my mom up with it. And hey, if you're a crafter out there, they've got some great stuff. Nicole, thank you so much for joining me on Small Biz Chat Live.
Thanks so much, Melinda. I am so stoked to see you again and be here with you right now.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. So tell us, what is Darn Good Yarn? I've been talking about your business for years. I don't think I do it justice. So I need you to explain what Darn Good Yarn is and tell us what your inspiration was to launching the business.
You know, I'm very much an accidental entrepreneur, and I always get a little bit shy when people read my bio that I send off. And it's like, that's definitely not how I started. I really wanted to learn how to knit. And it came from a place of just being a very crafty kid. Even when I was at school, I went to a very engineering and business school, and I was metal sculpting in my dorm room, which probably told me that I might not have been at the right place necessarily. So I've always been into the arts and textures and colors. When I got to a certain point in my life after the Air Force, I said, you know, I want to take my crafting into and turn it into a business. So I started to use some of my contracting background from the government, and I was in the Air Force, and I used sort of that supply chain management and the ideals there, pieced that together, and found this really unique yarn that was coming out of Nepal, and it was made from reclaimed material. And so this is pretty cool. It like saves the world and saves, you know, waste going into landfills. And then here, boom, here's this yarn. As I started to uncover this more as the business grew, and this was in the first couple of months, I realized that it was actually supplying and creating sustainable jobs for women in particular. And they were able to stay at home with their babies and make yarn for my company. And that was really it. I realized very early on that my business could actually be a conduit to create sustainable employment to sectors of people that generally get forgotten about within the global economy. So that was probably one of the biggest things from the start, that we weren't just a craft company. It was really this concept of creating a conduit to do better in the world. And very accidentally, but I just sort of do things like, what would my mom be proud of? And that's how I've sort of moved forward in my business journey.
All right. Now I want to get straight for people. Tell us how big your company is in terms of staff and revenue. Because I'm like, ladies and gentlemen, she sells yarn on the internet. Tell them, Nicole.
Okay, so last year we closed out at 9.1 million in revenue, and I started out of my guest bedroom and out of just saving my money actually from the Air Force when I was there. So it's totally possible. And I actually, here's I think one of the biggest things that, we're watching, small business owners watching right now. I started my business during the last recession. People were cocooning, and I, like, again, very accidentally, I was coming from a place of power. I had savings, and I just used what I had in my savings, and my husband had a good job. So we weren't coming from a place of being totally desperate, a lot of fiscal responsibility. And it was just kind of this really bizarre place that intersected where people were staying at home. If you remember back to 2008, people weren't going to the movies, and the movie theaters were freaking out. Well, you know what they were doing? They were doing this thing called cocooning and staying at home and making their houses nice. And we're seeing that right now as well. So that's, it's all possible. And I think it's important to be very wary of the news, and it can kind of freak you out if you pay too close of attention to it.
I think that's a really valid point. All right, now, okay, so you're an actual entrepreneur. You start this business selling yarn, but what has been the real secret to your business success, Nicole?
So as we've gotten larger, I think one of the biggest things, it's like, yes, we have marketing and we have all these things, but it's this kind of old school tactic of going back to why a business is in business. So a lot of people think that we are non-for-profit. We're not. I am a for-profit company. And hiring on, I think one of the most critical hires I've made in the past year is my CFO. And gosh, I wish I did that from day one, even if it was for an hour a month, because they tend to be, a little bit more than a lot of people on your staff initially. But she's helped me go into every single purchase, every single thing I'm doing, and say, okay, Nicole, is sending that email at that cost really worth it to the company? And how does that flow down? And does it make sense? Are you going to be profitable? I have a friend of mine, he's run many successful businesses, and he says, Nicole, no margin, no mission. And you think about that, like where our company is very mission driven. And if you don't have that margin built in and someone who's helping you be fiscally responsible within your business landscape, you're not going to be successful, and you're not going to be able to serve that greater mission, which is why you might have been put on this earth for.
Awesome. I think that's really important. So, so you're saying, just how many years have you been in business?
12 years.
Okay, so year 11, you hired a CFO.
Yeah.
All right. So what were you doing before that? Like, how were you managing stuff before that?
Yeah. I started off with my accountant. I think that's like, everyone's like, oh, here's my taxes. Can you help me with a little bit of projecting? And then I wound up driving him absolutely crazy during tax season one time when he told me I had to produce a balance sheet. And I'm like, I don't know how to do this. And then I wound up hiring on a bookkeeper. It was sort of like a come to Jesus with Nicole. It's like, Nicole, you might need to hire a bookkeeper. I'm like, okay, let me go figure this out. And then as we kept growing, my questions were getting more complex, how to time inventory purchases. And we have, in terms of our supply chain, it's complex. And our complexity comes from having to pay a lot of our vendors 100% upfront. So I'm now without that money for sometimes up to 6 months. So that's being cash strapped like that for a while can have impact. So making that jump to a CFO, and then now getting into a place of being strategic with how we're deploying our money, and even helping me like make banking relationships. And I'm sure James will probably talk about this. I'm excited to hear his segment, but really being able to now have this person who's on your team to help you really work through contracts, making sure they're fair to you. I think a lot of business owners think that they have to do all of this themselves, and this is actually what a CFO does. And a good CFO pays for themselves every single month. You're not even going to feel the hit. And people used to tell me that, and I was like, I don't think so. But I wish I listened sooner, honestly.
Well, I think that's a very honest story to tell. But hey, you did pretty well before you got there. But I'm glad you got there. So let's talk about, you are a social entrepreneur, and there was a very strategic decision for you to do that. So, you fell in love with this yarn and you found out how it was made. But I mean, how do you go from that to employing 600 women in India? I mean, that's like a big, big, major strategic commitment.
It absolutely is. And I'm glad you bring that up, because it is a commitment. It's exactly that. This is not just a charitable, we're going to go inject a couple $1,000s somewhere. I mean, donations and nonprofits all have their place, but when you look at true sustainable change within global economies and in like remote villages in the middle of India, which is where we're dealing a lot in, you have to be there for the long haul and have the stomach for that. And for me, it meant, and it still does, to make sure that we're growing very methodically. So in the world of Shark Tanks and having hyper growth, even though we've grown very quickly, we were named the fastest growing company in the capital region in New York 2 years ago. We still had that going on for ourselves, but I was methodical about not letting the growth get away from us. So people said, Nicole, why don't you go like pitch in front of Michael's or one of the big box craft stores? And I was like, we are not ready for that. I said, I will blow away what we've built, because these are still individuals. These are still humans, and they're working with like really basic materials and tools. So you have to be really respectful of where you're working. And you can get into the place of too much growth too fast, and then it depletes everything. And then you wind up setting them back even further in terms of trying to help people get out of generational poverty.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, listen, I am riveted by this conversation, but you are an expert in selling online. So when we come back on SmallBizChat Live, we're going to talk about the best ways to sell your wares online. I'm Melinda Emerson, the Small Biz Lady. You are watching SmallBizChat Live, and we will be right back.
Hi, I'm Melinda Emerson, Small Biz Lady. I know you might be thinking about quitting your business and going back into corporate America, but wait, before you give up, my new book, Fix Your Business, could give you a whole new lease on life. My 12 P's of running a successful business will walk you through step by step how to grow your business revenue, how to hire great people and streamline your processes, and so much more. Grab a copy today of Fix Your Business and get your life back.
Welcome back to SmallBizChat Live. I'm here with my guest, Nicole Snow, and we are talking about all things e-commerce and her business, darngoodyarn.com. Nicole, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you, what are the best ways to drive sales to an online business?
So you got to look at your customer, right? So for us, Facebook is really our sweet spot. Persona generation, you have to look at who you want your customer to be. And this is like basic marketing. And it's one of these things that's really been highlighted to me, especially sitting back at home and work from home during COVID, is getting back to old school marketing. I mean, yes, digital marketing is just one of the tools in your toolbox, but looking where people are shopping. So for us, again, Facebook, but then really, what are other ways people trying to engage? So for our customer, community is where it's at. We have a couple of private Facebook groups, and people are hardcore darn good yarners. I love my customers. If you're watching out there, mwah, mwah. But we realize that how do we create community, especially in like times when people can't go out, can't go shopping, and we really double down on our Facebook Live sales. So, I mean, it's QVC style, and this really came from me having bad sales like about a year ago, and I'm like, we need to figure something out. I have this skirt that's one of a kind, and it's made from reclaimed materials. Okay, we're getting on camera. We're just going to turn it on and go for it. And we were really scrappy and authentic about it. And there was something, again, going to being very authentic, I think, is really the key for selling online. And I find being almost too polished, you can lose something that you might miss connecting to that perfect customer base.
I got it. All right. So using multiple channels or one channel? Like, is your website enough, or do you need to be selling on Amazon, eBay? How do you do it?
We're on Amazon as well. We have a little bit of a brand, a little bit of a different brand going on there, but we are selling there. We also have some wholesale going on. So we are multi-channel, but during this time we have doubled down mostly on direct to consumer online through my website.
Okay.
And sometimes small business, like you only have so many resources. So we could say, yeah, we can do a big, splatter across multiple channels, but sometimes you have to try to be as efficient and go for the biggest like piece of fruit you can go pluck.
All right. And then what about online ads? Do you have to do online ads, or is it like, if you're selling online, do you got to do online ads?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think people get probably the first thing that people think about cutting, especially in times of recession, is their marketing budget. That is the last place I feel that you should be cutting. You should be doubling down on those efforts, making them as efficient as possible, really thinking about how you're making leads and what the real purpose of those ads are, and making them as efficient as possible. That's the name of the game right now.
All right. Last question. How has entering contests changed your business?
Well, you know how we met. FedEx has a small business grant contest I was the first ever winner of, oddly enough, and that's how we crossed paths. So for me, that was a great way to, and it's been important because I got a cash prize of $25,000 at that time, which I really needed. But it's been not just about the money, it's been a way to have your core community of customers rally around you and go, rah, 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 we can do this. And then you create your tribe. And that's really what it's about to me. It's not about actually winning, which sounds like a very foofy answer, but it really is the truth.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, thank you so much, Nicole. Hang loose. We're going to bring you back at the end of the show for our Hit It or Quit It panel. But thank you so much for sharing this valuable information with us. And up next, we're going to be talking with the celebrity credit guru himself. Mr. James Hunt is going to be here with us to talk about how to build or fix your credit. I'm Melinda Emerson, the Small Biz Lady, and we will be right back.
My new book, Fix Your Business, is really about encouraging people to take back control of their business and change how their businesses is run. It's not okay to skip paychecks. It's not okay to never feel like you can take a vacation. And it's also not okay to not know how much profit you've made in your business until your taxes are done. I really want business owners to stop letting their businesses be runaway trains. I've written this book to teach people processes and systems to help them run their businesses intentionally. My goal is to help existing entrepreneurs create a business that allows them to live their dream life.
Welcome back to Small Biz Chat Live. I'm Melinda Emerson, the Small Biz Lady, America's #1 small business expert. I hope you are watching us on my Facebook fan page, my Small Biz Lady page, or if you're over on YouTube hanging out with us, please leave us a comment and let us know if what we're doing is working for you, or if there's a topic that you would like us to tackle. And if you're on Twitter watching us via Periscope, please give us some super hearts. We love it, and we want to know how you are liking our content tonight. Now, I am so excited to have my next guest on because he is really doing something that's very critical right now. We're in the pandemic. It's COVID-19 is still going on. Many, many, many small businesses have been affected. People are unemployed and, calling your creditors, trying to get an extension. Some are giving it, some are not. And you want to know how you can manage your credit. What should you be saying to the credit reporting agencies so that this time doesn't, scar your credit for life? So I thought it was really important to bring my guest, James Hunt, on because he is a multi-millionaire entrepreneur. He is known as the celebrity credit guru. He's the go-to person for credit repair, and he helps many in the nation's top A-list entertainers, athletes, and thousands of people every day gain the chance to achieve good credit and excellent credit. And for more information, his website is celebritycreditguru.com. James, welcome to Small Biz Chat Live.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
I'm really excited to hear your story. So tell me, How did you get into the credit repair business?
Wow. So I had my inner circle of friends and family members who had issues, and I've always been like aggressive with writing letters, and I could actually, whatever I was confronting, I always was really good at making arguments and getting people to see things my way. And credit repair and credit became like just like the go-to, and everyone would come to me and say, this is my issue, and I would work with them to solve whatever their credit issues were.
Well, now, why is credit such an important aspect of a person's overall financial health? I mean, is it really like your personal credit score is as valuable as your social security number, right? I mean, like, why is it so important, and what kind of emphasis do people who will extend you credit put on it?
Wow. So it is extremely important because it will open every kind of financial door that you need to get into. And I think that the majority of people, or some people, don't realize how important your credit score is until they have doors slammed in their faces. Whether they're trying to get into a home, or whether they're trying to rent an apartment, whether they're trying to buy a new car, start a business. And all of a sudden, it becomes extremely valuable to them to understand that my score has to be this, and my score is not quite here where I need it to be, and that I knew I had some issues going on, but I have not addressed those issues. And so all of a sudden, it becomes an emergency. And most of the people who come to me in a state of emergency.
Okay, so tell me, what are some of the common myths or misconceptions people have about credit?
Well, some of the misconceptions is that because my score is what it is, that I just simply have to live with it, or that these late payments will affect me forever, and all kinds of different issues that are in the credit report that they don't understand that they can actually be proactive, and that if you are proactive with your credit, that you can literally, what your issues that you're facing today, you may not have to face them tomorrow if you are proactive.
All right, so tell us, what constitute poor credit, good credit, excellent credit in your book?
Well, it's not necessarily my book. So it is according to the FICO credit score. So the FICO credit score calculates that your score is bad credit if you have a as low as 300 to a 629 credit score, FICO credit score. And if you have a 630 to a 689, then you're in the fair category, credit category. And then if you're at a 690 to a 719, then you're in the good credit category, which means that you can get certain things. And then obviously, if you're in the 720 to an 850, then it opens up every door, and basically you have excellent credit. And it's possibly that nothing is impossible to you to get as long as you're in that excellent credit category.
All right, so with 40 million people unemployed, what are the best suggestions you have for people whose credit have been impacted by what's going on? You know, loss of a job, or they run a small business and all of a sudden they, can't be open for 2.5 months. What do you think that these people should be doing right now to protect their credit?
To protect their credit is that you just simply don't sit there and just let it happen to you. So you have to pick up that phone and call those creditors and let those creditors know, this is what I'm facing. This is what I'm facing with my car note. This is what my employment status is. I have not received my check or my stimulus check yet, and I'm still waiting on this. Can you give me this amount of grace period? And what is it that you're doing to impact those who are being impacted by this? And you would be surprised that the majority of creditors will work with you, and then will extend whatever it is that you're going through, and will delay any late payments and give you this grace period in which to actually make those payments, and or push the late payments, or push the payments back 3 or 4 months.
Well, it's interesting. I have heard that some creditors are doing that. I've also heard that creditors like American Express did it for 30 days and said, that's it, they want their money. So, I mean, what do you do when a creditor surprises you with other people have been doing 3-6 months and they're doing 30 days and kind of didn't tell you they were only doing 30 days? How do you manage that?
So ultimately, the creditor is going to set his own rules on what they will and will not allow. So you just simply have to work with them. I have clients that have had issues with American Express, and American Express has told them originally what they were only going to do. And then when it was actually put on paperwork in the form of a legal dispute, they then made other adjustments. So a lot of times what a creditor will tell you what they will or will not do, you really can't pay that much attention to it because they have a certain things that they have to say or can't say. But if you actually put it in writing, then you'll get a different kind of response.
Okay. So the key is to put it in writing. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about small businesses, because a lot of people didn't realize that you have a business credit score alongside your personal credit score. Can you talk a little bit about how one goes about building their business credit?
Yes. So it is called the Ptac score. And so as what your FICO credit score is to your personal credit, the Ptac score is to your business credit. And it will determine whether you're able to establish the business credit that you need to establish. Now, if you don't already have a Ptac score established, or if you are a new company and you have not already established credit yet, then most creditors will do what's called a personal guarantor. And they will look in your personal credit of the owner of the company and make decisions based upon your FICO credit score and use you as a personal guarantor for your business, and then go off of that and then establish you the credit. And then eventually it's basically giving you the training wheels for your business credit. And then eventually you want to get to the point where your business credit can stand on its own, and then you build that Ptac score up to at least about an 80 or above, so that you can then separate your business from your personal, and your business will be able to stand on its own Ptac score.
Okay. Well, that's really helpful to know, because I wasn't even 100% sure. I knew I've been in business 20 years, so I knew I had a Ptac score, but I wasn't sure how to go about building one if you're just getting started. So tell me, what is the hunt? I know that you talk about this. What is the hunt?
So I have multiple companies, but the hunt is my passion. So I hire a lot of at-risk people, and I'm not the conventional employer. And so I'll take people that I may not hire. They go into the Morehouse and hire some of my staff, but I may take some staff. I hired a busboy recently, and the busboy that I actually hired about a year ago is now my office manager. And he had no skills whatsoever, but I took him and I saw potential in him and I hired him. And so the hunt is a book that I'm writing, which is the art of teaching young entrepreneurs how to hunt for what it is that they want and in life, and how to go after it, and how to be relentless in going after it. So that is now my current passion, is teaching young entrepreneurs. I said to someone a couple of days ago that I'm no longer hiring employees. I'm only hiring entrepreneurs. And so I have to be able to see an entrepreneur in them before I actually hire them. And so I'm teaching them to hunt for what they want.
So you're mentoring, you're grooming people. You're not just like giving somebody a job and being like, do this.
Oh my God, there is a story behind every person. There's a story behind literally everybody that I touch in my life. And nobody in my inner circle has bad credit. Everybody has excellent credit. Nobody has a raggedy car. Nobody has and I'm a borderline interior decorator. And so my hands are in every aspect of their life to make sure that everything is up to standards. And so I make sure that they're living their best life.
Well, I mean, are you adopting grown people? Because I mean, I can get on your team. Hey, I can get on your team. Listen, I really appreciate this insight and knowledge. And when we come back on Small Biz Chat Live, I'm going to talk to James Hunt very seriously about how we can help the 54% of African Americans who do not have a living wage, and what we can do to help economic equity. This is Melinda Emerson. You are watching Small Biz Chat Live, and we will be right back.
Are you tired of struggling in your business, not getting a paycheck? Dreading dealing with your business in the morning? Are you regretting even starting your business in the first place? Well, I know you're tired, and I also remember what that kind of tired is like. But the good news is, it's time to stop feeling that way. Stop! I'm Melinda Emerson, Small Biz Lady, and my new book, Fix Your Business, is a 90-day turnaround plan to get back your life and reduce chaos in your business. I've been in business nearly 20 years, and let me teach you how to build a business that works for you. Grab a copy today.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Small Biz Chat Live. We are back with my guest, James Hunt, the celebrity credit guru. And he and I are going to have a conversation now about this whole Black Lives Matter movement and what it really means in terms of the racial equity gap, in terms of the economic gap. As I was saying when we were going out to break, 54% of African Americans in the US do not have a living wage, which means they work 2 part-time jobs and can't even afford to feed their children. And so they can't afford to live in nice neighborhoods and have their kids go to nice schools. And so I want to talk about, there's so many ideas and things that have been thrown out here about what can be done, but I wanted to talk to the credit guru about what could be done to help everyone achieve parity in terms of generational wealth and income. So James, let's just dive into this, in the wake of the George Floyd murder and too many others, what do you suggest that could be done right now to help all African Americans achieve, economic parity?
So I think that first that business owners have a responsibility to educate. And those of us who have achieved any amount of success, financial or otherwise, have a responsibility to actually reach back and to teach others. And I think that our people, this is a biblical truth, is that our people are perishing for a lack of knowledge. And so we who have knowledge have a responsibility. To whom much is given, much is required. We have a responsibility to educate them, not just simply to go and educate them. And then if I'm driving on and leave Buckhead and go on that side of town and educate them and then come back and sit behind my gated community and say that I've done my job. But we have a responsibility to actually go and get some of them and take them and bring them into our world and expose them into another whole life. I was telling you in the last segment that I have like young employees. Some of them came from Bankhead and who had never did anything and never been exposed to anything. And they have their first apartments, they have their first cars, they have their first things, and they're learning the business and they're learning how to carry themselves and how to dress and how to, in a work environment, and how I expose them to all the different celebrity clients that come into the office and how to carry themselves professional and not be groupies and be professional on the floor. So I think we have a responsibility to take them and to educate them. I do all kinds of things. I give away suits and I'll go to like halfway houses and I'll give away suits. I'm doing a dinner party on Saturday at a halfway house for at-risk men who are just getting out of prison. And I'm doing it to help them to get to what they need to get to.
So you think it's an onus on us as individuals to help? You don't believe that the government necessarily owes us anything, or that there's a reason, mass incarceration, all this kind of stuff. I mean, it's cyclical and it was done intentionally. So how do we unravel some of that? I mean, I read recently that billionaire Bob Johnson, who formerly owned BET, was suggesting that, all African Americans should get $350,000. What are your thoughts about that, or, some other kind of reparation?
Well, and then what with the money? And so if they have not been educated, then the $300,000 would just be wasted. And so I think that we have an obligation to actually teach and empower them so that they understand what it is to do. And I think that we are away with the day of waiting for the government to help us and to supply this for us. We who have been empowered have a responsibility to impact all of those that we come in contact with to help bring them up. I believe in the idea of it takes a village.
I agree with that. I agree with that. And I do a lot of that too with interns and others and kids in the community and kids in our church community in particular. But what policies can we do beyond education, that you believe that education is the key to fix everything? I mean, what policies can be changed to help the African American community combat, cyclical poverty? I mean, because I live in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. We are the poorest major city in America. So when COVID-19 happened and the lockdown happened, there were kids who didn't have computers at home. So then they got everybody Chromebooks. Then there were kids that didn't have internet. And they were telling those kids to go to the parking lot of the school district's building and sit in the park like they had somebody to drive them, some imaginary person in their household that didn't work, that could drive them to sit in the parking lot so that they could do their schoolwork jumping off of the school district's Wi-Fi. I mean, this stuff is crazy. I mean, let alone the food insecurity issues that exist all over the country, but especially in urban communities. They had to keep some schools open just to give out the free lunches. So, I mean, this is such a big problem. I mean, do you think there's a policy issue that could be rectified?
Well, I think that our lawmakers we have to hold their feet to the fire to make sure they're in the know and they have more information than I do. I won't pretend to actually be an expert on outside of the lane in which I'm in, but I understand that the lane that I'm in, I have a responsibility to give back in that lane. And so while I may not know what the mayor should be doing or what the legislators should be doing or what Congress or the senators should be doing, I am in support of whatever they're doing for the community, but there are certain things that I don't know, but I know that I have a responsibility with the people that have been entrusted with me to help them and to pull them up.
I agree. We'll leave it at each one does have to teach one. And that is, we have to do what we can where we are and hope that others see us and follow our good example. Well, thank you so much, Jane, for being a guest on SmallBizChat Live. We're going to bring you back in a little bit for our panel, but thank you so much for all you do and for teaching us about credit tonight. It was very insightful. When we come back, we're going to talk about pursuing government agencies for business. That might be a good move right now. You're watching SmallBizChat Live, and we will be right back.
Hi, everybody. I'm Melinda Emerson, the Small Biz Lady, and I want to invite you to enter the Small Biz Chat podcast giveaway contest. For the next 30 days, starting today, you'll have the chance to win amazing prizes if you subscribe to the podcast. All you need to do is take a screenshot after you've subscribed to the Small Biz Chat podcast and tag me, Small Biz Lady, on Twitter or Instagram. Once a week, I'll select a winner, and you have a chance to win one of my autographed books, Become Your Own Boss in 12 Months, or Fix Your Business, or you might even get a chance to win one of my limited edition Small Biz Chat podcast t-shirts. Don't delay. Subscribe to the Small Biz Chat podcast today.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Small Biz Chat Live. I'm Melinda Emerson, the Small Biz Lady, and I am so excited for all of you to be here with us tonight. We are talking about all kinds of things that can help you take your business to the next level. And with that, I want to introduce my next guest. Listen, if your business has been adversely affected by the pandemic, government contracting really could be a way to go. My next guest, Carroll Bernard, is a government marketing coach and trainer, and he's the co-founder of govology.com. It's an online platform dedicated to teaching small business owners how to win business in the government marketplace. Carroll draws from a decade of experience as a government buyer, and he's been successful at winning government contracts himself. So Carroll, thank you so much for joining me tonight on SmallBizChat Live.
Hey, thank you so much. I'm just have the pleasure to be here.
Awesome, awesome. All right, let's jump into it. The government buys everything. So can any business at any size do business with the government?
Well, the answer to that question is yes. There's not really any size standards that the government will exclude you, although there's some scenarios where you might run across that you need to have 2 years behind you, maybe to get into certain contract vehicles or maybe certain certification programs. But it's really open for all businesses. And I've seen all kinds of businesses, from people who started out on unemployment, launching a business within a couple of years, have multi-million dollars in business from government contracts. And so really it can be a business where anybody can get involved with it.
So why would you say that now is a good time to go after doing business with government agencies?
Well, I've been preaching this for a long time, and we're probably going to talk a little bit about what happened 10 years ago in the last Great Recession. But at that time, I was working as a buyer with the VA and also then shifted over to the Small Business Administration. And what I saw during the last recession was that the government was still spending money. And I see the government marketplace as two opportunities. One, of course, for growth, which is what everybody sees, but the other one that a lot of people don't think about is for diversification. And when you have these times of recessionary periods and the market starts to contract, the government is still spending money. And in fact, they spend even more money through stimulus packages. And we're getting ready to actually see another stimulus package this month hit the House floor, called the Invest in America Act, where they're talking about injecting $500 billion into infrastructure projects. And that money trickles down to other state and local agencies. It trickles down to prime contractors and all the sub-elements of subcontractors who support those primes. And so it's like this big flood of money that, that analogy, like the water lifts all ships, the rising tide lifts all ships. And so I really think this now is a really good time to get started. Don't wait until that flow of money rushes by you and you see it and you're like, oh, let me go put my ship in the water, because it does take a little bit to get set up and to build some relationships and to do the things that you need to do out there to get involved.
Got it. Got it. So once you decide you want to pursue government contacts, what should you do first?
I really believe the first thing that you should do is explore the government marketplace. In fact, we have a monthly webinar that we do called Exploring the Government Marketplace for Your Small Business. And the purpose behind that webinar is so that people that are not involved yet can really come into this session and, number one, see if the government marketplace is right for them, because it's not right for everybody. And it might be right for you down the road, but just not right for you right now. And I don't want anybody to get involved that's it's not ready to go, or they're going to be spending a lot of time and effort there when they're not ready. And so this one training that we do is really crucial to give you some of the ins and outs, some of the good, the bad, and the ugly, some of the misconceptions that are out there, because there's a lot of misconceptions out there. And so once you get to the end of that, you can look at it and say, okay, do we want to move forward? And if we do, let's go. The second piece to that, once you get in, is to validate the market. Before you really start running out there, do some validation, do some homework, check in with the agencies, because you want to validate your business model. When people say they want to sell to the government, or they can sell to the government, it's kind of like a theory that you can, but you've got to validate that theory and prove that you can have this successful model within the government marketplace. And then once you've got that, then you can really start to gain some momentum.
So when you're just getting started, is it best to focus on like just one agency or a couple at a time? Like, what's the best kind of like strategy?
That's a great question. And on a lot of the webinars that I do, I talk about the market research. And one of the cool things is that with the federal government in particular, you can go back and look at some of the historical spend data and where the money has gone, because a lot of times that's where it's going to go again in the future. And so, as you look at that whole perspective there, I think it's just so important for businesses to understand that big picture of the government marketplace so they can know exactly where they need to go first. And they might find an agency out there that's doing a lot of business in the type of product or service that they sell. So you definitely want to do your homework on these top agencies. And that's one of the cool things that some of the market research can give to you. And some of these websites like usaspending.gov are available for free to anybody to go in there and find that out. So what I recommend is definitely do some homework, start with the top agencies that are buying what you sell, but then also think about yourself as a prospector. You're going out into, the old days when they were looking for gold. I mean, the government has got this mountain of gold, and just because an agency might be buying a lot of what you sell, it may be hard to access that because you might have to get on a specific contract vehicle that might not be readily available to you right now. So then you go out and you start to prospect into other agencies to see if there's some opportunity there. And then once you start to win some small opportunities here and there, then you can expand that model and build that proving sales process for yourself.
All right, so let's talk about these contract vehicles. Since you just brought it up, let's talk about what some of the contract vehicles you might need to really be effective with your sales efforts.
It really all depends on the industry and the products and service that you're selling. A lot of times government agencies buys in, like I call it the acquisition pyramid. So the first place that a contracting officer is going to go and look is they're going to say, do we have an existing contract on this, or do we have it somewhere in our warehouse? And so there's a lot of contracts that exist like that, where either the agency has a contract, maybe it's a 5-year contract vehicle. And so sometimes to get positioned on that, you just have to wait until that opportunity comes open again. But there's also a lot of good opportunities for small businesses to know who those contractors are, the prime contractors that hold those contracts, so they can actually build relationships and position with them, because there's a lot of opportunity that can flow down to those businesses. So sometimes it may be that there's no contract vehicle in place and the government goes through the open market. And that's where, when you register at sam.gov and you start watching the opportunities at beta.sam.gov and the contracting portal that starts flowing through, you'll see things coming through. But then there's a whole other segment of things that are not even published, because under $25,000, the government doesn't have to publish it. So depending upon what you sell, the size of your offering, everybody has a little bit of a different strategy. And so there's not really one blueprint for that fits all businesses. Each business has to understand and create their own roadmap and then drive down that road.
All right, so let's talk about Ptac centers. Like, a lot of people have heard of small business development centers, which are run by the government agencies. They're funded through the SBA. But can you talk a little bit about Ptac centers? Because I don't think most people know what they are.
Absolutely. I love the Ptac centers, and we have partnerships with actually most of the Ptacs out there. There's 94 centers around the country. We have partnerships with over 70, where small businesses can come in and actually access Gavology training at no cost to them. And so Ptac Center stands for Procurement Technical Assistance Center. This was a program that was launched by the Department of Defense in the mid-'80s, because they were like, hey, why are we paying so much money for everything? And the answer to that was that they just didn't have that robust supply chain. And so they started funding these Ptac centers across the country. Right now, there's 94 of them. And small businesses can go to this grant-funded resource and get free counseling. They can get some free training from people that are going to sit there and help them get set up, help them do some of the homework that I mentioned. And then as they go along through their journey, kind of be a support agent for them. What I would recommend if a small business does not know about the Ptac program, go to the Association of Procurement Technical Assistance Centers website at aptac-us.org, aptac-us.org. And from there, if they click on the map, they can find the Ptac Center that's located nearest to them, and I would encourage them to start there.
And I would also say, reach out to the Small Business Development Center in your area. They absolutely can point you to the local Ptac Center as well, because they're sort of like sister agencies. Now, how important is past performance? I know you mentioned earlier that, in some cases you need to be in business at least 2 years, but I mean, if you don't have proper past performance, it doesn't matter, right? I mean, that's what I've always known about government contracting myself. True.
Yeah, that's another one of those questions where I think we could answer it with, it depends. For example, if we're talking about like state and local procurement and construction bids where they do a lot of just, hey, we're going to put this out on a low bid. If you're the responsive and the responsible contractor, you're pretty much going to get it, and past performance doesn't play a big role. If there's a small commercial item that the government is buying, a lot of times they're just looking at the price. But the higher the dollar volume and the more technically complex the acquisition becomes, the government is very risk averse. So they don't want to basically have you on as their first, they don't want you to have this as your first rodeo. They would like to see that you've done it for somebody else before. Mm-hmm. And so that's where, depending upon the acquisition, things like past experience and past performance become very important to the government. And so you want to ensure that you're able to show that as you are going out there. And really, when you read the solicitations, you're going to see what they're asking you for. And they try to make it very clear on if they're just looking at price or they're going to look at all of these other subjective factors like past performance and past experience.
What about your financial status? Like I've definitely seen in the past, and just so you know, my company graduated from the 8A program in 1987. So I know, 2007. I know a lot about this, but what about how you have to be set up financially to do business with the government? Like, don't they go and check whether or not you have the financial wherewithal to do business with them?
Yeah, I think that it depends on the acquisition. Again, I know that when I was a contracting officer at the SBA and talking about business credit, we used to go and look at a Dun & Bradstreet supplier qualifier report, and it would show like a risk level of the contractor in terms of just paying their bills and paying their subs. And so we did look at some of those reports in terms of risk. Some of the other acquisition teams didn't use that report as much, but I definitely think that you do want to have a good credit, back to James there. And also you want to also have the ability to fulfill your first contract, because, if you don't fulfill your first contract, that first contract might be your last. And so you need to be able to fund the mobilization of whatever you're doing, or when you send product into the government, you need to be able to have some type of capital to get that material, from your suppliers into the government. And then typically there's payment terms, which, we can talk about, how quickly do you get paid, but that's what you need to really be prepared for financially.
Okay. Well, I think that is great advice. We're going to definitely tell people how to check out your website and how to get more information. But what I want to do right now is bring back all of our guests, because it is time for the Hit It and Quit It panel. So I want to invite back Nicole Snow from darngoodyarn.com, James Hunt, the celebrity credit guru, and of course, Carroll Bernard, our expert government contracting guru. So you guys, it's time to have a little bit of fun. So Nicole, since you've been on ice the longest, I'm coming to you first, then I'm coming to you, James, and then I'm coming to you, Carroll. So here is the deal. You only have 30 seconds to answer, and you cannot repeat the answer that anyone else is going to give, because I'm going to ask all of you the exact same question. So whoever gets to go first, there is definitely an advantage. All right. So Nicole, I'm going to start with you. Share your favorite podcast. What is your favorite podcast?
Tim Ferriss's podcast.
Tim Ferriss's podcast. All right. Good stuff. Good stuff. James, what is your favorite podcast?
Really don't follow them like that. I really don't. I am so busy. TED Talks. Is it TED Talks?
Well, TED Talks are on YouTube, so I'll take that. If if you're following TED Talks, I'll take that.
I never really watched the podcast.
Okay, all right. You're a little old school, but that's okay. That's okay. All right, Carroll, what is your favorite podcast?
I think my favorite one is the Profit First podcast, which is where I actually first heard you speak on. So I love it for two reasons.
Yeah, my good friend Mike McCallum's podcast, which is a great podcast. He and I went to college together, actually. So it's great that he and I both end up, training entrepreneurs. Who knew that would happen? All right. Second question, James. I'm coming to you first. Okay. What is your favorite old school marketing tip? Old school marketing tip. What's your favorite one?
Know your clients, know your clientele base, know your product, and market it as best as you can.
All right. I'm going to take that. Carroll, what is your favorite old school marketing tip?
Market research, and I preach this all the time in the government marketplace, but really, if you're not starting with market research, you're going to be wasting a lot of time and money out there in your marketing efforts.
I completely concur with that. All right, Ms. Nicole, what is your favorite old school marketing tip?
James stole mine. But anyway, my rebound on that one is I really like to say around here, what are we selling? And it's what's the product. So think about that for a little bit, but what are you selling? What is that actually doing? And then how is that getting down to a root need of what a human actually wants? And that's actually what you're selling.
All right, I like that. I did have to think about it though. I had to stop and be like, okay, what is she saying?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no, that was good stuff. So thank you for that. All right, and here's our last question. And Carroll, I'm going to start with you. What is the best business book you've ever read? And then I'm going to go to you, Nicole, and I'm going to finish with you, James. Best business book you ever read?
I really enjoy Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Great book.
Ooh.
All right, James, favorite book?
My first and favorite was John H. Johnson's Succeeding Against the Odds.
I love that book too. That's a great book. The founder of Ebony Magazine, Jet Magazine. That is a fantastic book. Good choice. All right, Ms. Nicole Snow, what is your favorite business book?
Finish Big by Bo Burlington. And it finally gave me the confidence to know really where I was going in the business. You think you're going to be married to it forever. And it was like, oh, there might be life after a business and an exit.
Yeah, I really like all of Bo Burlington's books, and I like that book as well. And I would be remiss if I did not share with you guys that my favorite business book is The E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber.
Yeah.
Favorite one. Listen, you guys, thank you so much. This show was terrific tonight. Thank you, social entrepreneur Nicole Snow of darngoodyarn.com, celebrity credit expert James Hunt, and Carroll Bernard, our co-founder of govology.com. Thank you all for joining me. Head over to my blog, succeedasYourOwnBoss.com, to get more information on all of my guests. Thank you for watching tonight's Small Biz Chat Live. The mission of Small Biz Chat is to end small business failure. I'm Melinda Emerson, the Small Biz Lady. Till next time, remember this: you never lose in business. Either you win or you learn. God bless everybody. Good night.